So that heartbreak ended, I guess. You could say that after that whole situation was finished with, I moved on. And the funny thing about life is that if you think that you had been through the worst experience of your life, just keep living and you'll go through something worse. And it's true even in my love life, and I'm quite sure in yours. We've all been through worse hurts as we went along. And unfortunately, that is the case because it didn't have to be that way. If we're honest with ourselves, if we're honest with our own minds, and if we stop and think about what we've been through, a lot of what we've been through has been due to our unwillingness to listen to somebody else's counsel, somebody who's been through things before we did. Our mother, our father, an older, more mature friend or relative. However, we think when we're young that we know it all. Hey man, I'm allowing my emotions to be my guide. I'm letting my feelings direct me. Or I'm taking advice from younger people just like me who don't know nothing. And we figure that we can make a success out of our lives. You know, we fall into these relationships based on lust, based on infatuation. Praise God, God forgives. However, the scars are usually still there. Either we lose our virginity in situations like this, or we lose a little bit of our marbles. And what I mean by that is we've given so much of our love to people in the past that when our true lover comes into the view in the future or in the present, we don't have much to give them. You know, and that's really the truth about it, because we gave all of our best years, we gave all of our best emotions to that individual that didn't mean us no good. So when I consider the situation now, as I look back, I remember after this particular young lady, let's see, we moved around a lot. And I've told you guys that often, that we moved back and forth between America and the Bahamas. And we moved back to Texas shortly after this whole situation with my girlfriend took place. We landed ourselves back in the Dallas, Texas area. My mother decided she was going to go back and pursue her education, which she had done several years before when I was not even born. In Texas, Southwestern Adventist University was the place. Well, she didn't finish at the time. And so after we were all born, me, my 4 sisters, and we had settled in the Bahamas for a little bit, she decided that she was going to leave us in the Bahamas and go back to Texas to figure out what she wanted to do with herself. And that's what she did. She left me, my sisters, and my dad in the Bahamas, which is funny because my dad is the American, my mama's the Bahamian, and she leaves the American in the Bahamas with the kids. Well, my dad didn't stay very long after she left, and her and the girls packed up, or he and the girls packed up and they left and came to the U.S. I stayed in the Bahamas with my grandparents, but that was a short hiatus. My grandparents, they weren't fast enough to keep up with me. At 15, 16 years old, they were up in age in their 60s, and I was taking full advantage of that. So my folks were like, you know what, you need to be where we are. And after maybe a month of staying behind, I ended up in Texas where my folks and sisters had already settled. And I remember when I got there, immediately I was pursued by the coaches for football, basketball, because I mean, at this point I was 6'3", 6'4", about 230 pounds, 240 pounds, and I'm only in the 10th grade. So, I mean, they pursued me like flies on poop. You hear me? I mean, I remember the first day I came on campus to the middle school where my sisters had already been registered, and this fella walks up to me and he says, "Excuse me, sir, can I help you find your kids?" And I looked at this guy and I said, "No, I'm a student here. I'm looking for my sister." He said, "What?" He grabbed me and hauled me to the coach's lounge where they immediately signed me up for football. Well, during that particular time, I remember I left that middle school because it was the very end of the semester. He signed me up for the high school team, Berkner High in Richardson, Plano area in Texas. And the Berkner Rams actually is the name of that football team. I don't know if they've changed it over the years because this was over 20 years ago. But, you know, the Berkner Rams was the name of the team at the time. And they signed me up immediately for football. And I started falling in love with a young lady that was in school with me. And I don't remember her name, and so even if I did, I wouldn't have shared it. But she was a Caucasian girl. I began to have an interest in our other brothers and sisters. And I remember in my mind, she was very gorgeous. She had glasses. She had a little straight nose, small little bitsy lips, you know. But I was very much attracted. I was very much caught up. She would make these little eye contacts with me in class. And of course, you know, I would make eye contact back. But whenever I opened my mouth, because I had lived in the Bahamas for so long, I was always teased because I had a strong accent. And so I barely spoke in class. But she would somehow get me to say words here and there. And she'd smile. And I remember her smile was a very bright smile. And I would say little things, and she would cut up and flirt with me as a result of the words that I said. Well, anyway, I started falling for this girl. And my football career, if you want to call it that, was beginning to pick up speed. I was not and am still not a natural born killer. And what I mean by that is there's a second engine that an athlete has to gear into in order to be successful. He's got to plug out any, how can I say, any reasonable spirit towards his opponent, because you cannot successfully outdo your opponent thinking highfalutin thoughts about him. You got to kind of dismantle them in your mind. And I'm not able to do that. I'm loving everybody. I'm liking everybody, talking with everybody, and always, you know, social. So I didn't have that second gear to just be animalistic. But for whatever reason, I did well playing football. I did very well. In fact, they made me defensive end, and my job was to hunt down whoever had the ball. At my very first play, I remember I burst through the offensive line, and I rushed the quarterback and knocked him to the ground. And I mean, I'm polite, so I picked him back up, and I hurt him pretty bad. And I remember the crowd went stupid. They went bananas, and I'm thinking, that feels pretty nice. Because up to this point, the only thing I'd ever been noticed for was foolish behavior. But here now, I'm hurting somebody, and the crowd is applauding and going wild. I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I could make a career out of this. I didn't, obviously. But I remember it did feel good. And I began to become a little bit more rough on the edges, at least in practice. I'm still very polite and friendly. But I remember my coaches would do little things to provoke me. And when they provoked me, the animal did come out. Well, the young lady that I was interested in, I remember when my football team was chosen to go to the Disney World Wide World of Sports complex to play a few games against other high school competition in the nation. And I was very privileged to go on this trip. I remember I begged my dad and my mom if they would let me go. And so the coach also sold it to my folks, and the trip became possible. And I remember while at the Disney World, the Wide World of Sports complex, I'm taking pictures, I'm buying little gifts for my girlfriend. I'm thinking about her completely the whole time. And I get back and I find out that she has been cheating while I'm gone.